Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Westport Select Board meeting Monday, May 6, 2024. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. Just a couple of welcoming comments. I want to remind everybody that town meeting is tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the new high school. A bunch of committees, including our board and the Infrastructure Oversight Committee, are posted for 6:30 at the new high school. So we hope to see everybody there. The warrant information with all the motions and full budget is available on the town website. I think that's it for welcome comments. We do want to, the board wants to acknowledge the passing of Wayne Sunderland. So Wayne Sunderland, 87, of Westport, passed away on April 26. He was the longtime companion of Nancy Cook. He was a 1953 graduate of Durfee High School. He attended Boston University and completed civil engineering studies. He was employed by the Mass Highway Department as a civil engineer for 39 years. He served in the U.S. Army Reserve from 1955 to 63. He was an elected member on Dartmouth for the Board of Public Works and the Planning Board. He resided in Westport from 1980. Here in Westport, he was elected a member of the Planning Board, and he served as Westport's Planning Board Commissioner to the SERPID, and was awarded Commissioner of the Year in May 2007. I didn't know Wayne personally, but I know when I first joined the board, we could always find him sitting in these meetings at that seat with a big file folder. And what I know about Wayne is he really cared about serving his community, and he really cared about serving Westport, and I'm really fortunate that I had the chance to work with him. Does anybody have anything you want to say?
Well, I'd just like to add, he was our unofficial keeper of the door, too. He helped us with the sign in every meeting. He also took me under his wing to surf at when I first got on board. He was the planner right before Jim, so he did a lot for the town, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, good.
I had the privilege of meeting him and knowing him. He used to go to the post office at Westport Point, 11:15 every day. I set my clock by it, and he was a good guy and a great friend. We miss him.
I just remember that Wayne, if he wasn't here physically, he was here via local cable access. And if he didn't like the way things were going at meetings, and this happened on more than one occasion, he would get up, drive up to town hall, and come in to speak his piece.
So our condolences to his family. He will be missed. I also just wanted to take a moment to let everyone know that I am in the process of changing my last name back to the name that I was born with. So going forward, I'm going to be Shauna Teas, T-E-A-S, and I appreciate your patience while I try to get used to all of that. Are there any other announcements before we begin? All right, so the first thing we have is a public hearing. We have a request from Zolma Salem for a 6-month seasonal trailer permit for recreational purposes. The property is located at 58 East Beach Road, Assessor's Map 76A, Lot 68. Is there anyone here for that request?
Yes.
You can come forward.
Hi, how are you?
Can you state your name?
Nick Salem. I'm Zoma's husband.
Okay,
She should be here soon, but
that's okay. Paula, is the paperwork in order?
Mm-hmm.
So we have.
Same trailer, same setup. Same trailer setup.
Okay, so same setup, just a different person. Okay, all right. Anybody have any questions?
You're aware it's a environmentally sensitive area, and there's certain rules and whatnot?
yes,
You're aware of that?
yes, we are.
If there's no other questions, I'll move it. There's nothing.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. This is a public hearing. Is there any comments from the public? Anything from the board? All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the request. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you so much.
We have another hearing, a request from Nick Salem for the transfer of the repair license from Westport Tire to Salem Enterprise, Inc., located at 718 State Road. Also you, right?
That's me, yes.
So Paula, is the paperwork in order?
Yes, no, police report is favorable.
The police report is favorable. Jim, do you have the recommendation?
I recommend approval.
All right. Anybody have anything they want to?
No, I'll move them, I know Mike will keep an eye on.
Okay. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board? Is there any public comments? Anything you want to add? No? Okay, all in favor?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Aye, that's unanimous.
Thank you so much.
The next item we have is a request from Bay Breeze Inc., doing business as Westport Sea Farms, to approve the application for change of manager from Carrie M. Fennelly to Kristen M. Fennelly, and a request for an alteration of premises for the property at 2065 Main Road in Westport. I believe we have some people here for that one. Pull up another chair.
Hi, everybody.
So Jim, do you want to just tell us what this is about?
They were in, years ago, for a beer and wine, malted wine liquor license, which they received, a seasonal liquor license. At the time, they had submitted a plan showing the interior and exterior locations that they were described as part of their licensed premises. And that area that was licensed has increased in size, and they're here tonight to get approval from the board for that increase in size and area. So the inside increased roughly from 594 square feet up to 806 square feet. It might be slightly less than that. I had a storage room as part of that. I can confirm that. And the patio area was originally 871 square feet, which I think is a mistake because the shaded area that they actually showed on their plan was much larger than that. And then they're looking to go up to 2,250 square feet.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So one topic before us is the change of the licensee, the change of the manager, right? And then the second is, so my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is the same footprint that we would have seen last summer when we were there. It's just that prior there was interior seating and exterior seating, and now you're shifting the seating outside. Is that basically correct?
Correct. During COVID, the state allowed a shifting from indoor seating to outdoor seating without local board approval. My clients were notified of this by the then Secretary for the Board of Selectmen. They modified it. The occupancy of the structure or occupancy of the premises has not changed since that time. It is remaining at 72.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes.
Well, let's from the board first, and then we'll hear from the public. Is there anything from the board? Okay, go ahead. You can come to the microphone.
First of all,
Can you
This
identify
license-
yourself, please?
Brenda Figueredo, abutter, 2056. First of all, I have a question about the licensing. According to what I have read, this is a tasting room license?
No.
Can we confirm that? I think it's not. I think it's a wine and malt beverage.
It's a seasonal beer and wine.
No, we're not, we're talking about the facility. We're not talking about the liquor license.
So with regards to the facility itself, if I may, Madam,
You may.
the facility itself is allowed under Westport's agritourism bylaws. It's an extension of Westport Sea Farms, which has numerous tracts within the Westport River and within the coastal areas of Westport, off of Gooseberry Island. These total in excess of 5 acres or more. As such, they qualify and have allowances under Westport's agritourism bylaw as an aquaculture venture. The location where the boats are moored and where the purchasing point for the oysters is at on Main Road at the location in question. We were granted an extension after findings from the Zoning Board of Appeals that it would not be a material increase for beer and wine to be served at the location, a material increase or change in use. Therefore, it was an allowed activity. It remained an allowed activity, and is within the commercial spirit of the point area.
I do want to just clarify, so the authority of this board would be the change of manager on the license and the license itself, right? But the zoning question isn't before us. It isn't properly for us to decide the zoning issue. That would have to be referred to the zoning board, which I highly recommend that you
Correct.
check in with the zoning board on that. Was there anyone on the board that had any questions for that before I go back to the audience? Go ahead.
Okay. So what I was told by a member of the select board was that the license that was given to the premise was a tasting license, a tasting room license.
That's not
This
correct.
is not a restaurant. It's a tasting room, or it's not. These are huge questions. First of all, it's zoned residential.
So I just said we're not making any zoning.
I understand that. So consequently, it is zoned residential. It is not zoned commercial. So to operate a restaurant in a residential area, you have to go before the zoning board. But they have never been before the zoning board. The license that was permitted was a tasting room. In the state of Massachusetts, the only thing that is a tasting room is a pouring license for liquor. And that is given to places that create the liquor. So the winery has a pouring license and agricultural, and the brewery has a license, agricultural, for pouring. There is no such thing as an oyster tasting license. One.
So
Two.
my understanding of the current licensing that they have, that I'm looking in our memos for, is that they have a seasonal common victualler license for
Correct.
serving of the oysters.
Which I suggest
I'm
is,
talking right now,
Okay.
I'm trying to answer your question. They have a wine and malt liquor license. I don't see the, Jim, do you have an, can you point me to the place where so the common victualler license covers the oysters. They filed with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission and they've received approval. It's a wine and malt liquor
Yeah.
license,
There's,
regular license.
in the Commonwealth, if I may,
Right.
Madam Chair, there's no such thing as a tasting room license.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Farms, breweries, and, or farming establishments that brew their own beer, distill their own alcohol, or make wine are allowed to have in Massachusetts what are called pouring permits or pouring room permits. As such, they're allowed tasting rooms to serve the alcohol that they're creating. If it's a distillery, they're allowed to have all alcohol. If it's a brewery, they're allowed to have beer. If it's a winery, they can have wine. This is none of those. This is a beer and wine seasonal license that was granted after the decision was made that it would not qualify as an expansion of use based on the history and commercial nature of the property. It's also my understanding that a commercial venture, Ms. Figueredo owns a commercial venture on the same street. So I don't know whether or not fishing boats, we're still determining that fishing boats and water-dependent uses are commercial, but it is commercial and they do pre-exist.
So I just want to confirm, so there, before you talk, I promise I will get back to you. It doesn't say anywhere on here it's a tasting license. It's a wine and malt liquor license. Is there anyone on the board who has anything before questions or clarifications on that? No. Jim?
So they're before the board tonight for a change of manager and an expansion of the premises. The zoning issue, even if it was granted tonight, would still be out there if there is a zoning issue.
I would like to add that in 2018, we did a request for determination where Ralph, with the documentation that we submitted, Ralph had he did not have, how did he word it? We conformed with what we listed, we conformed with the non-conforming use of the building. All the activities that we are currently doing and have for the past, this will be our 6th year?
Yep.
Sixth year are the same, and the current footprint and table layout has been the same for the past 4 years. In 2020, we were granted the use of the patio during COVID. The license was issued in our first beer and wine, or wine and malt seasonal liquor license was in October 2018.
Thank you. Mr. Graham?
Okay. So, first of all, there again, this property is zoned residential. It is not zoned commercial for any purpose. So a 75-seat restaurant should absolutely go before the zoning board. There's no parking, there's no water.
I've heard several of us tell them they need to go to the zoning board. and we're not making a
Yes, but you
decision.
know, this has been,
What would you,
as they said, 2018. Now, the building was sold by the Giffords in 2007. And it was converted into a residential property. It was not purchased by the new owners until 2015, which means it is not grandfathered. So how it got all of these things is beyond me. And yes, it should go to the zoning board, and that's the appropriate thing to happen, but it hasn't happened in the past 5 or 6 years. It's been allowed to not just exist, but now they're asking to enlarge the business at a time right now where the abutters have no use of the parking lot in the summertime. People are parked in their driveways, blocking their driveways. They're parked on the wrong side of this street. They're parked in the middle of the parking lot so the fire trucks can't get around, which is a safety issue. All of this is going on for a building that isn't even permitted to run a business. And 75 seats? And we're talking about 75 seats. I don't know how this happened, but somewhere along the line, the ball got seriously dropped. Last year, the zoning board went down there and they served them with a cease and desist. They were
That's
allowed
false.
to run
please
a,
don't interrupt.
This
Please
is
do not
not true.
interrupt her, let her talk. Go ahead.
and they ran for another month.
Is there an action that you would like this board to take?
I think the whole thing should be tabled and revisited.
Thank you for your comments. Do you want to address any of them?
Just briefly, the history of the building was addressed extensively with Mr. Souza. An opinion was requested and granted by town council. Subsequent to that, we properly applied for all permits for a parcel to house 72 occupants. We supplied and provided the town with a parking plan which met the adequate needs for the facility based on 72 guests. At the time prior to COVID, it was divided, the occupancy of the building was divided between the interior and the exterior, having 36 seats in the interior, 36 seats on the exterior. When COVID hit, the town said, hey, you can't have any more indoor dining. We're going to stop that. So for the summer months, we're going to do what the state is allowing us to do. Please, we're giving you notice. My clients didn't approach the town. The town approached my clients and said, this is what you can do. The outdoor seating, we're going to temporarily put that at 72 people. So it's been operated successfully for the past 4 years and can operate, I believe, until the end of 2024. As such, the state also has, I believe, notes may have been given to you, the state has also passed the opportunity for the state to make such permanent without additional requirements. The facility, though, the parking, everything has changed, has remained the same. The only increase, has been outdoor use. There's no longer any indoor service being requested at this location.
Thank you. Mr. Lees?
Hi, excuse me, Albert Lees. Just a corrective for the minutes. Brenda was incorrect, or the previous speaker was incorrect. The current owners did not buy the property from Bob Gifford and Cheryl Gifford. They bought it from me. So I believe, unless I heard wrong, I just wanted to correct that. Secondly, this has been going on for a number of years, and I believe that this is this has been rehashed and resettled for a long time, both at the Zoning Board of Appeals, in front of this board. And, you know, I think it's time to move on. I mean, they've run a successful business with no complaints that I know of as far as any alcohol related. Also, the other incorrect thing is that when I bought the wharf from Bob Gifford, there was commercial activity. I was renting dock space. We had an oyster farm. We had upwellers. These are all commercial activities. There has been no break, which I believe, and I could be wrong, the zoning allows for a 2-year break before it goes away. There has been no break. So this fallacy is just that. It's a myth. Lastly, as far as the parking, people like the previous speaker are trying to pin the tail on one donkey. There's a lot of donkeys down there. There's a marina. There's an illegal marina. There is a, excuse me, there is a bed and breakfast. There are a lot of activities down there. There are Wednesday nights bluegrass. That place is mobbed. Nobody complains about that. Without a permit, by the way, I may add. So I don't want to go on and on and on. It just irritates me to see these two kids that are trying to make a living for themselves and their family to get beat up year after year after year by 2 or 3 people that have it in for them. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Before Ms. Figueredo speaks, is there anybody else who would like to speak on this topic?
First of all, nobody has it in for anybody. That is not why I'm here. Secondly, the building was sold in 2007, you're correct, by Bob Gifford to Al Lees, who then went before the state of Massachusetts and got a permit for a tight tank for a 1-bedroom residence. And that's what it's zoned as, a 1-bedroom residence. Now, operating upwellers, having an oyster farm, that's fine. That's not an issue either. But having a 75-seat restaurant with no parking, no septic system, and no public water source, which is a requirement normally it's a requirement. These things have to be litigated and discussed. And all this time, it's never been discussed. Even when there was inside seating, he said it was for 35. Well, in Massachusetts, inside seating for 25 is permitted without a public water source. After 25 seats, you have to have a public water source. That's the law. So that right there would have been illegal, but now they're moving it all outside. So now you have 75 seats with an outhouse and no public water source and no parking. And I'm sorry that it's hashed and rehashed, but so many times people have pointed out these issues and nothing's been done about it. It's been overlooked. And I appreciate that the oyster business is a lovely business, and I don't have any problem with that. But I do think that since other businesses in the town of Westport are required to go through these hoops, to have parking, to have public water sources, to have septic, this business ought to as well. There's no special rule for some people who are trying hard to make a living for their family.
Thank you. So my understanding is, so one, we have a change of manager. The two, we have an alteration of the premises. But the total premises has been approved for a number of years now for 72 diners.
Correct.
And but the current permit says 36 inside, 36 outside. The applicants are talking about just the same number of people that have been approved all these years, only just outside. You're not changing the layout that we would have seen last year. You're not changing the layout. This isn't happening. Is strictly moved from inside outside.
Correct.
I do want to underscore that this board can't make the zoning determination. So we highly recommend that you talk to zoning. There's been another similar establishment that had what do they have? A similar establishment recently went before the zoning board and got confirmation of the non-conforming use, and I think that is probably appropriate here. From the members of the board, so what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question,
Go ahead.
Mr. Hartnett. Jim, does the building inspector or zoning enforcement officer need to look at this because of this change?
No.
I'm not asking you, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't talking to the board, I'm sorry.
It's a good question. So they expanded the interior, I believe. I'm assuming it's been inspected by the building inspector, but I'm not 100% sure. I did check with him on the zoning issues, and he was under the impression that they would probably have to go to the zoning board. He did not make a final determination for an expansion of the use, but he did not make that final determination.
I,
But does he need to weigh in on this? That's all I'm asking. I mean, I don't think it's a big issue, personally.
I think he will at some point, and regardless of what this board does, the zoning is separate. So, I mean, this board could grant it, and the building inspector could say it does or doesn't conform, and if it doesn't, they'd have to rectify that situation.
So for our decision here, we don't need his review.
You don't need his approval. We usually get his opinion, same thing we did the Board of Health. The Board of Health was okay with the change. They said there was no change in the number of occupants or seating, so they did not have any issue with it. I did not get anything in writing from the building inspector.
Okay, thank you.
yes, we have been in touch with the building department and Ralph Souza. He was actually in touch with us last fall, and then we were also in touch with him recently about this change. He was reaching out, and he said he would reach out if he needed to take action. That was over 3 weeks ago, I believe, Jim? Mm-hmm. 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he has not. We have answered all of his questions every time everything has arose. We have approached the zoning board, like I said previously. I understand abutters that have applied for liquor licenses and gotten denied in the past are upset. I don't control those situations. Just trying to keep the business moving and stay the same.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
I move
Go
to
ahead.
approve. I got one question. So, Jim, the Ralph, the zoning enforcement officer, I mean, on this approval, I mean, they must have an existing parking plan, right?
Correct. Everything was approved way back 6 years ago. So there is on-site parking, and there's parking as allowed under the Westport bylaws, adequate parking within 500 feet, public parking of the proposed or the current use. So that's not changed at all. And there hasn't been an expansion. There's actually been a reduction. The area that's being utilized in the interior does not benefit or impact the residential use. Again, the first floor remained commercial throughout Mr. Lee's tenure, so that was never an issue.
I would like to add, we've actually, working with Jim, when they were redoing the Point Terminus, it was determined by himself and Chris Leonard that the area that we rent next to our boat slips on town dock were allowed for our employees. That's up to 6 additional parking spaces. Currently, we have 3 boats on the town dock. So if anything, we actually have more parking than previously.
Thank you. Can you identify yourself?
Sure. Ryan Wagner, owner of Weatherlow Farms. First off, I love these guys, and I think they're great. And I think the thoughtful application of agritourism as it relates to licensing on the beer and wine side is interesting. And so my question is for the board, how exactly does the licensing on that front relate to agritourism?
So that would be a zoning issue, right? The agritourism is zoning. It's not before the board tonight. This is just an alteration of premises and a change in manager for the liquor license.
So agritourism is solely a zoning issue?
It's a zoning issue, yes. It's permitted under the zoning bylaws if they meet certain criteria.
Sure, and I understand, I think what those are, that's not who licenses liquor licenses. That is not a zoning decision. That is a decision that is solely made by the people in this room.
That's correct.
And so my question is, how do those two interact? And when is agritourism, if it's allowed by zoning, then also allowed to have a liquor license? I mean, their counsel is the one who suggested that.
Okay, this is not this is a beer and wine, malted beverages and wine license. Under a law, there was actually a case that went to the appeals court in which Westport, the town of Westport was a defendant regarding what qualified as an expanded use. Now, historically, this building under the Giffords and under prior ownership served both prepared and fresh seafood. They also were licensed and allowed to sell beverages, waters, sodas, other things. Westport lost a case many, many years ago with regards to a property on Sanford Road, which had applied for beer and wine, the ability to sell retail beer and wine. The courts determined that it was not an expanded use, that it was simply the addition of beverages, although the addition of other alcoholic, say hard alcohols, would constitute or could constitute an expanded use of the premises. In this case, my clients conformed. The establishment had been selling seafood, had been selling beverages, had been doing a whole bunch of things over the years. At one point, under the Lees family, they sold, and it was a gas station, they sold gas. There was a whole bunch of things. So in this case, it wasn't determined to be an expanded use or a increased use of the premises to be granted a beer and wine license. There is precedent both within the state and local cases that Westport had been the defendant in. So we did adequately apply, provided the correct paperwork and information to the board at that time, and it's been operating flawlessly without any incidents for 6 years.
So by that line of reasonings, if someone had a common vic license and was operating, and under, again, that line of reasoning, was just adding alcohol to their list of already sold, it would be an accepted reason to be
We
granted.
can't address a hypothetical issue, right?
Well,
The
that's
issue
it's
before us
actually a
right
very
now,
specific question.
the issue that's before us right now is whether to allow the change of manager from Carrie into Kristen Fennelly, and whether to approve the alteration of premises as described. That's what's before us right now.
What would be the appropriate venue to address that question?
It sounds like the zoning.
We just determined it's not a zoning
It
question.
would be
I don't know if we
Board.
determine that it's not a zoning issue.
If there's an issue, it can be brought before us. We'll have council weigh in and we'll address the next issue.
So what would the appropriate form for that be?
Well, I'm not sure what all happens before the alcoholic beverage license comes to us, but when the point where it comes to us, then it would come to us. But I think it goes to ABCC first, doesn't it?
You could certainly check back with me in the next week or so, and I can look and get that information for you.
All right, appreciate it.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I move approval of the change in management as well as the layout for the plan, allocation, alteration of premises.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Do you have a motion and a second to approve the change of management and request the alteration of premises? Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So I heard,
Aye.
is that
Aye.
unanimous?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear everybody, just unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do go to zoning. We did not make a decision on the zoning.
Thank you.
Thanks. The next item on the agenda is a request from Manuel Soares, president of Granite City Crushing Inc., for a repair license at 800C American Legion Highway. Jim, you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this is, like stated, it's a repair license. We do have the paperwork is in order. We have the police report. They do not have an issue with it. They have a favorable police report. I would recommend approval.
there any,
What is a repair license?
you have to go to the mic. I think.
Sorry, Don Davidson. What is a repair license?
Repair automobiles and
Okay.
trucks.
So, and we have all the paperwork in order, including a favorable police report.
That's correct, yes.
Is there anybody have any questions or comments about this?
I move approval.
So,
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Anything from the public?
I couldn't find the file. Is there currently a license there?
There's not.
There is not.
No, this is a no.
All right, just make sure they have the adequate, I used to always add this caveat to a license, make sure that they have the right hazmat materials there in case of a spill.
Okay. Any discussion? We had a motion, right?
Yes.
I second it. Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain, because this happens to be me.
Yeah. So we have 4 in favor, 1 abstention. Good luck. Now we're on to 2A. 2A is continued from April 22nd. A request from Yellowfin Events LLC to hold Bikes and Beers cycling event that partners with Buzzards Bay Brewing and benefits the Buzzards Bay Coalition and the South Coast Bikeway Alliance on Saturday, May 18 from 8 to 12:30. Is there anyone here from that event? So we continue this event. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I thought Gail was gonna make it, I didn't see her.
So we continued this before. The conditions of the East Beach Road were in question at the time, so we were concerned about approving this when we weren't uncertain of the road status. So I believe that they've changed the route. Is that what
They have
happened?
changed the route, and the police department has given a favorable recommendation on the change route.
Okay. Anybody have-
I'll move it with the recommendations.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Two, oh, we don't have 2. Didn't we have 2 that had the weird road? Did the other one not?
The other one was the roadways, and it was approved.
The other one. Okay, all right, thank you. Now we have a joint meeting with the Board of Assessors. The Board of Assessors want to come up. So the joint meeting with the Board of Assessors to consider the appointment of Pauline Sylvia Maderos to fill the unexpired Board of Assessors term. And
Steve Medeiros, Chairman of the Board of Assessors. We had a board member
wait,
resign.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
identified. This is Pauline Maderos. I feel weird calling you Pauline.
I know.
It's Twiggy, and you are
Suann McDermott.
Survey McDermott of the Board of Assessors. Right, and do you guys need to call your meeting to order, or do you already have a meeting?
No, we have a meeting going.
Okay.
We had a board member resign about a month and a half ago, and the position came open, and Pauline applied for it. And I believe it was the only one.
We don't have people beating down the door. So this would be to fill the unexpired term until the next election in April. Right? Anything you want to comment?
I've always been interested in the process because when I started going out with Steve, he was an assessor, and I'd go with him. And I found it very educational and interesting. So when the position came up, and he was mentioning that, Peter didn't want to stay on,
I had made quite a few calls trying to
You
get
made-
people to apply, and I just couldn't
Right.
get anybody interested, unfortunately.
and I said, gee, I feel bad, that you couldn't get anybody. I said, if it wasn't a conflict of interest, I want to do it. And he asked Theo, I believe, and she said, have me call the board in Boston, and I did. And spoke with a lawyer, and they said it was not a conflict of interest. As long as I filled out a form, my notice of intent, and my background, and I did.
She's done several inspections with me when, I work for Mattapoisett part-time in Berkeley now.
So you're
She
aware of
has
the
some
rigors of the
experience.
job. I think we had one of the previous members was concerned about the rigors of the testing required, I think, was the, if you're aware of that.
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
He's made me well aware.
And what's the pleasure of the board?
Just Jim Sutherland's, no issues, correct?
No issues that I'm aware of.
All right, and with that, I'll move it.
Second.
And so how does this work? Because it's joint, but we have to vote and also the assessors vote, right? Or
Everybody votes majority.
the majority of the
Both.
combined boards?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that unanimous? All right, congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard.
Thank you, thank you.
Good luck.
Um, 3B on the agenda, request from Michael Burris, the town planner, to appoint Mary Sir, Avril Andrade, Emily Dutra, Elizabeth White, and Ann Cloutier as temporary grant-funded community liaison positions as part of the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness 2.0 grant. Welcome, Mr. Burris.
Hi.
Do you want to explain this one to us?
Yeah, this grant is a grant that we were awarded probably about 4 months ago. We received $45,000 in funds for doing community engagement and building social resilience in Westport. And then there's another $50,000 that's at the end of this grant program that is for implementing a seed grant or seed project for a climate resilience related activity. And so the community liaisons in this process are to be compensated per the terms of the grant agreement. And so these folks will be participating for up to 80 hours over the next year, maybe a little bit over a year.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Sounds good. I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as described. Is there any discussion?
Just that it is grant funded, it's not tax money.
It's not a conflict of interest, it's just a disclosure that Emily is my cousin,
Okay.
in case there's a question to that effect.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Do
Thank
you
you.
didn't have anything else on it?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you. 3C, we have a request from Thomas Aubin to appoint school committee members to the following committees. So this would have been, they reorged their boards just like we recently reorged ours. And these are appointments from that committee. So we have Melissa Pacheco, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Jason Pacheco, Cable Advisory Board, Evan Gendro and Gloria Cabral to the School Building Committee, Evan Gendro, the Long-Term Building Committee, Gloria Cabral and Melissa Pacheco, the ADA Transition Team, Evan Gendro to the Audit Committee, Gloria Cabral and Christopher Thrasher to the Educational Fund Committee.
I'll move.
Second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to appoint Patrick Long and Ann Boxler to the committee.
Speaking as the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, Patrick was recommended, we have had a commercial lender from Bay Coast Bank sitting on the board now since its inception. And we did ask the CEO of Bay Coast Bank to nominate someone to replace, and Betty Ann had already made that request to him directly. The suggestion came back as Patrick Long, who works in the insurance division of the bank. And we voted to accept that nomination at our last meeting. At the last meeting, it was also Ann Boxler's last meeting, or it was, she had, her term here had expired, and she chose not to run for election, but she was still a member of the Affordable Housing Trust. And so she indicated interest in continuing on the trust, and I'm suggesting that we basically have her fill the position that I had, which was the select board appointed position, now that I'm the select board representative to the Affordable Housing Trust. With those, if you approve these two tonight, there will be no vacancies on the Affordable Housing Trust. Because further in the agenda, you'll see that there are 2 vacancies on the agenda. It's noted as having 2 vacancies, but at the current time, if we do that, so I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
So a motion and a second to appoint Patrick Long and Ann Boxler to Affordable Housing Trust. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Dick Brewer to be reappointed to the Audit Committee as the Select Board Representative.
So move.
Second.
Keep that moving before he changes his mind.
No, he's going to arm wrestle him for it if he wants it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Dick, for serving on that very important committee.
I will abstain from that.
Oh, so we have four and one abstention. We have a request from the cemetery department to hire Cameron Todman Hawley as a seasonal employee effective May 13, 2024. Jim?
Yeah, this is a recommendation from the foreman, Steven Souza, to hire Cameron as a seasonal employee at the cemetery. This would be the second and last seasonal employee of the season. So, he does have experience in this, and they can use the help. So I would recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to appoint a select board member to the American Disabilities Act Transition Plan Committee and the Long-Term Building Committee. Anybody want to volunteer? I will volunteer for the ADA Transition Plan Committee.
I'll volunteer for the long-term.
Long-term, okay, so do we need,
Two on it now, or you go?
because you're already on it, right? And this is Ann's spot.
These were the two that Ann.
Those are the two
So we
spots.
had two before, okay.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to appoint Shauna to the ADA Transition Plan Committee and Craig to the Long-Term Building Committee.
Is that a motion?
No, I'm entertaining.
Somebody has to make that
So
statement.
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Thank you. Action 4A, we have a request from Beverly Bish to increase the hourly wage for the part-time position of the Supportive Day Program Assistant Director from $16.83 to $17.50 per hour. This has been reviewed by the Personnel Board. Is there anyone here to talk about this? No. Jim, you want to tell us about this?
Now, this is a part-time position. It's funded through a grant. They had a difficult time filling it. They've recommended an increase. They started here, they went to the Personnel Board, and now they're back. Personnel Board did recommend, reviewed it, and is in favor of the increase. I'd recommend approval. It's a relatively small increase.
I just want to point out that I did check with Jim. We've sometimes had some problems before. We raise the salary of a non-union position, and then the union they say they have comparable positions, and then they want a corresponding rate. We don't believe there are other comparable positions to the Supportive Day Program Assistant Director position.
I'll move it.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is that
Aye.
unanimous? It's unanimous. B, we want a request to approve a letter notifying the city of Fall River of the proposed water main extension. The current water agreement requires notification of any expansion. Jim, you want to tell us what this is
So
about?
there's a copy of the letter in the file. We have an agreement with, an intermunicipal agreement with the city of Fall River for water, for public water along Route 6. We recently received a grant for $4 million to extend the water line along Route 6 from the current housing property along Route 6 just east of Davis Road to almost up to Washington Street. It also will cover a loop from Route 6 down Gifford Road to the Macomber School and back down Osborne Street. It's a relatively small increase in the volume, but we still, according to the agreement, we have to notify the city of the increase. We've been in contact with them verbally. This just kind of formalizes the process. And this grant itself is, we'll be installing the water mains. People are not required to tie in. There is no betterment cost for the property owners. It's covered by the grant.
There's no increased taxation.
There's no increase in taxation, so I think in general, I hope this is a good thing. And we have a number of wells that, and I shouldn't say a number, we have a few wells that we know are high in PFAS and manganese, and this would address those. There may be some other private wells in that area that have or have not been tested, but DEP as well as the EPA were very excited about this grant, and I don't see an issue with Fall River, but we do need to notify them.
So the action before us right now is just to approve the letter to be sent. That's in the packet. Is there any discussion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion?
Minnie spoke first. You beat me.
I don't know, Paula. We're confusing her by having multiple different people's seconds. So she's on her toes today. You guys haven't like normalized who's doing it.
Who's that?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. C, we have a request from the library trustees to increase the salary being offered for the director. I do believe we have. please introduce yourselves?
Don Davidson, Chair of the Library Trustees.
Laura Bennett, Vice Chair and Chair of the Search Committee.
Okay.
Holly Dooley, trustee.
Susan Charlisko, trustee.
Thank you. Do you get all that, Paul? All right, so can you tell us about this request?
I'd like to give a little bit of history first. On March 1st, we posted the job with the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, another called Library Job Online, Southern Connecticut University, and Indeed. Indeed, we had 24 possibilities, but none were qualified. We have some limitations on Indeed, what we can ask, I believe. So we had a lot of people look at it, and then they didn't like the salary. The Mass Library Commissioners require that each municipality and its library must be certified. To get municipal appropriation requirement, the minimum standards of the free library, they have to have a master's degree in library science. What else I got? We had 4 people with the required master's degree did apply and were interviewed. 3 of the 4 withdrew their applications following the interviewing, stated that the salary offered was not sufficient for them to change jobs or to relocate. We had 2 additional applications come in. One is from an out-of-state library director, another is from wants to move back to New England. I'll read something from the Library Search Committee. The search process has been and continues to be a painstaking task. The trustees appointed a search committee consisting of 3 trustees, 2 volunteers, and from the Friends of Westport Library. Many hours have been spent in meetings, reviewing applications, interviewing, checking references, and many emails and phone calls have been done. The entire board continues to appraise the process and has met 1 applicant for a second interview, and we will be meeting for another second interview this week, Wednesday. Laura spoke with the Mass Library Commissioners. They've also heard that other people are having troubles because of budgets and low salaries. Following the pandemic, there was a 20 to 30% turnover of library directors, most of whom retired. When those positions were filled, other positions opened, and job openings are only now beginning to get back to normal. But it is tougher than it used to be, especially in Westport, which is a very attractive town to live in, which is a selling point, but the cost of living, especially housing, may discourage out-of-state people. There have been recent library directors openings in southeastern Mass. Pembroke had a range of 80 to 90,000. Dayton had a problem looking for a director. Mattapoisett seems to have found one for 80,000. Westport is currently offering 74,667. The additional duties placed upon our assistant director, she has had to alter her course as she was going for continuing education. To her credit, she has done a good job trying to fill the vote. And I do have some salaries for small towns like ours around. Population-wise, Easton is 85,000, Fairhaven is 81,000, Foxborough is 118,000, Mansfield 97, Mattapoisett 75, Middleborough 101, Norton 97, Pembroke 83, Somerset 73, Swansea 84, Wareham 99, and Westport at 74. And I did talk to Jim about, he said that the library salary is low. We're in the 50th percentile for the report, and that has a range of 88 to 102. That's in the job salary guys that you were working on. And he also asked me if there was any money in our budget to help with that, because we did use some of the state funds for some of the part-time salaries, but there are no more funds available from the state that we can use to help fill this position. So we're asking if the range could be, where was my range?
The email says 79.5 to 82.
Okay, that's it then. Yes, that's what we're asking, if they can find any money in free cash or anywhere to help us. We feel it might help us get a director in place. We do not want to get decertified and lose the almost $40,000 we get from the state every year.
And if we're decertified, the residents of Westport cannot use the facilities of another library. You can go and read, but you cannot check out any items through interlibrary loan or in person.
Or the sales online kiosks and all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the museum passes and everything else they have to offer.
So, Jim, I don't know if you've seen this now, but Jim, can you talk about this sheet that you passed us?
So this is just from the survey that was done through the wage study. It's still preliminary, but it lists salaries for maybe 15 communities. And they range from anywhere from, a low of 52.6 in Somerset, and this is the range, right? So Somerset has a range of 52 up to 116. But generally, I think, we are at the low end, like a lot of our positions here in town. It's starting to catch up with us, but we're at 74,670 or 667 right now, and that's for FY25. The range is probably higher than that, for anybody in this area is probably 80 to 85, maybe 80 to 90.
I think one of the problems, Joe, what you have is when you have a library director that's been there forever, like Sue Branco was, you get the little increases every year. But when it comes to hiring somebody new, they don't want that. They're looking for a higher range. And to have a master's of science, library science, is expensive to get. So I think that, those type of qualifications needed for the job, I think it warrants a little bit higher salary.
So Jim, the budget in town meeting tomorrow, I believe the budgeted line item for this, tomorrow's town meeting for starting in July is 76,907, right? So, and you're saying you don't have money in the budget to cover an increase.
No.
So you're asking us to approve an increase, but we don't know where the budget comes from.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Take it into consideration.
Well, for me, it's an issue because we're in the middle of bargaining with public safety that we're literally losing because of the same thing. We can't pay enough. We're losing the younger people who kind of use this as a stepping stone. We're training them and they're taking off.
Exactly.
So it's a tough decision for us, especially if we're in the middle of negotiations saying we don't have anything, to be honest with you. So I don't know where we can get.
And our other library director was here for like 3 years. He was a good fit. Everything worked well, but he had another child. Insurance was more expensive and salary was less. He left mainly for money and insurance.
It's a problem with all the positions in Westport, really. There's hardly any that we're paying market rate or that we're paying what they deserve to be paid. But it's also, we don't have money.
Susan Branco was the library director, and she had accrued seniority and other things which increased her salary. But when we hired her replacement, he sort of went to the base without those added. So that made the salary lower than it had been. I'm not sure what the difference was. It might have been around $4,000 or $5,000.
Is that what the range was?
What's that?
Do you know what the range was
For
the library director?
it was the same pay, but she did have some incentives, educational incentives and longevity, which boosted up a bit.
So Jim, do you have a recommendation here?
I don't know if they're going to fill a position at the current rate. What we have done, or what's been done with some of the other departments, is they've gone out, they've gotten a candidate, they found a candidate that they like, and then they've negotiated the salary, and at that point came back before the board to see if the board would approve that specific salary for the person coming in. And we would do that, we've done that through employment agreements.
I think if we might have started at the beginning, but some of the people already don't want to come back because of the salary. And I'd have a hard time telling them to come back, we might be able to get you something more.
Well, you might be in a better position if at the town meeting tomorrow you ask for an increase in the budgeted amount for your department to cover that. Then you'd at least have, I mean, if you're asking for, I don't know, 10 grand more is going to be a lot, but if you're asking for another 5,000 or 6,000, you might be able to ask at town meeting to increase your budget for 25, and then that would make, I know it would make it easier for me to approve it if you had a budgeted amount, and I believe we might have that much in taxation to cover it. So I'm only one person, but that was my recommendation: is go to town meeting and get your budget increased, and it make it easier.
But that would be for 25.
That would be for 25, so you'd have to look at how much you've saved in salary by not having someone, whether you can cover that in 24. Because it's already May, and so I think you'd need to look at whether you'd have that if you've had room in your budget to cover.
You mean
Through June.
carryover?
Well, so you have a, go ahead.
I'm sorry, so if you hired somebody this fiscal year, and by the time you got somebody on board, it's gonna be June the earliest, it's only gonna be a month. Your current director has not been there for at least a month, so there is some additional salary in there that would get you through this year, and if you did an increase for the following year, even if you brought somebody in June, you would have enough to cover it. And know, as of July, that there'd be enough in there for the remaining year.
That would be if it gets approved at town meeting.
That was just my suggestion. Go ahead.
So we would do that by putting a hold on the library budget?
You put a hold on the library
Yeah.
budget, you would ask for an amendment to the number, and you use the source as taxation.
So
But that being said, I'm just one person, this board can decide to do something
No, I
different.
agree, we're in the middle of negotiations, it makes us tough.
Craig, did you?
just as you know, when they're going over you put the hold on in the beginning, and then when it comes back to the individual holds, that's when you get the motion that you think will make sense, given what you may save this year and what is going to be the base salary for next year.
Okay, we can do that.
We can do that.
Our other concern is, can our assistant hang in there for a while? She's really under the gun. She's good.
There was did we temporarily increase the pay at least for that?
Yes.
position? I think we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I don't think the money is what she wants, though. It's a lot of pressure on her. She wants to work with the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her summer reading program is coming up, and she'd love to get back to it.
Can we survive until something, if we have to?
And we have an excellent staff at the library.
The library is a huge benefit to the town. I don't go to the library very often, but I sure do use the Audible and ebooks all the time, and that's just a tremendous cost savings.
We have a lot more kids from school come over than I thought we would have had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have more this year from the middle high school than we used to have from the middle school. Nice.
So, is there any, so that's the recommendation, unless anybody else has another
I
comment.
think it makes sense, if the townspeople give them more money to do it.
And then I think that would make it easier for us to approve it.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll work on it.
All right, anything else?
Thank you
I mean,
for
you
your
guys
efforts,
want to
though.
talk about anything going on at the library that the town should know about?
Foul.
You have like a book fair going on, donations?
September is the book fair.
They're accepting donations now.
As of May 1, right?
Yeah, the paperbacks go first and the hardcover.
No paperback book sale this year, but there will be the big book sale in September.
And paperbacks don't sell, and CDs don't sell either. We're not accepting those anymore.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
July 4th Parade Committee. So we have a request from the 4th of July Fair Committee to hold the parade on Thursday, July 4, 2024 at 10 a.m. Welcome, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Caitlin Fay. I'm Becky Anderson.
And you're requesting library, library. You're requesting the parade for July 4th. Are there any changes this year, or are you proposing anything?
It's going to be sunny.
That's the big change.
Don't make it above 80, please.
Yes, sunny and 76.
Yes. No rain, no clouds. It'll be a perfect day.
So is there any changes from previous years? Everything exactly the same? Jim, do we have any?
Don't think we have anything on file, it's just consistent with previous years. I don't have any opposition, I recommend approval.
All right, how about the police funding sometimes?
That's the only thing, the last couple of years, we have funded the police.
So what our ask would be if you guys could continue with that.
Yeah, with the money over there. Figure it out.
Last year, they made an effort to pull available where it came out like $400 or $500 less than what it usually does. So, hoping, let's see, Kudo has retired, but we're going to be working with Sergeant
Mellow,
and hoping that we could make that happen again.
Do we have to make the most of subject to, or do you think that would be all right if we just go?
We'll make it work.
All right, I'll move it.
So you're moving the parade as,
Yeah, thank you for bringing it forward.
I just really, do we have a second?
Second.
So I just really appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I firmly believe the town should be paying for the police details because it's a town event. People think it's a town event. So what should people know about the parade if they want to participate?
No pre-sign up. You just show up the morning of 8 a.m. Start lining up at Perry's Bakery, across from Perry's Bakery. We'll have plenty of people there. We'll sign you up when you get there. What else? Roads close at 9. No exceptions.
Walkers, if you are a walker, you have to get on a float, car, something at Charlotte White. We will not allow walkers after Charlotte White Road. We end at the high school. Monitor our Facebook page for any changes. If we do have changes, we're looking for, if anybody wants to volunteer time, if anybody wants to make a donation. We're very gracious that you guys will help with our police detail, but there's still...
Yeah, there's other costs.
There's other costs that we do incur. So that's just...
Okay, so we have a motion and second to approve the July 4 parade. Any further discussion?
Just say the day and time.
July 4, 10 a.m.
That's the address for donations.
296 Indian Town Road, Westport.
That's new this year. Dave's done. He said
He actually retired this
we might see him driving in the parade.
And is that payable to Westport, to the parade?
Westport Parade, Westport 4th of July Parade Committee.
Yeah, WPF.
We'll put it on our social, we'll put it on our social media. But we wanted to wait to get a permission before we ask for donations.
Yes.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
And we'll
see you all there.
all there. We'll save you a spot.
It's good weather, not pouring down rain this year.
We had really good turnout with the rain last year.
We did. Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
4E, request to use up to $45,000 of local American Rescue Plan Act funds for East Beach Road emergency repairs. Jim?
Yeah, Chris Gonzalez at the Highway Department has been getting prices to do the emergency repairs on the road. He had looked at doing it as part of the Chapter 90 contract, but by the time that goes out to bid and construction starts, wouldn't be until July or maybe August. And it does get quite a bit of traffic, and the summer season starting relatively soon, so he's looking to use ARPA funds to get those repairs done as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Need a motion on that?
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. All right, so I had put an action item here, review the warrant articles for town meeting with recommended actions. My thought here is that I believe, it's my opinion that the select board should have an opinion on the articles, but we're not required to. And so I thought I would see if you want to vote on whether you recommend or not recommend these articles or not. Or actually, I just had a couple of questions on some, if we don't want to vote on all of them. So I guess I could use your input. Do you guys want to vote on all of them?
I don't think it's necessary, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay, so I do have questions on, so Jim gave us a marked up copy that has some comments on it in red. So I'm skipping to Article 14, which is on page 8. So this one is the water and sewer one. So the motion that was published was the sum of $7 million. So that's going to be the motion on the floor is 7 million, not 35 million. Finance committee did not recommend this one, and finance committee is usually the one who makes the motions.
You did.
It says FinCom does not recommend.
They changed that.
Oh, they changed
They
it.
just had this last week. Yeah.
Okay, so they did recommend a revised amount.
Yes.
Okay, so are they going to be making the motion then?
I saw an email today, they were hoping the select board would make a motion on this one.
All right, so my
Or the
question.
IOC, I guess.
You or I, whatever.
So, yeah, so my question was, do you want the motion to come from the select board or the
That's
infrastructure?
fine. I don't mind either one. It's fine.
All right, so I'll make the motion on that one.
Okay. Saves Mike passing and all that good stuff.
And then Article 15, that was for the betterments, and the FinCom did not recommend that one,
I didn't
right?
do 15 on
Correct.
16.
Okay, so do you guys want, is it okay if the select board makes that motion?
Sure.
Okay,
Yep.
so I will make that motion. And I think those are the only ones I had questions on.
Article 16, too.
Article 16. Oh, so Article 16 already said select board.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. And then I saw on social media, people said that we only removed one article, but we removed Article 1 and we removed Article 21.
That's correct.
But we left the number, it's for numbering that we left them in there, so that didn't renumber everything. And were there any other, I did want to call attention, there's at least one where the motion's going to be to refer back to the planning board.
Article 34 and Article 37.
So 34 and 37. It's really, these zoning ones are really tricky to find, to find the page where the motion is. So, so 34 and 37, but it's the planning board that's going to make that motion, right?
They'll make all these zoning
Okay, so the
motions.
plan, here it is, the bottom of page 23, I finally found it. So the planning board's going to move to refer them back to the planning board. All right, I did check, Jim said there have been some meetings with the town moderator and school department to talk about the meeting. So they are preparing, can you just talk about, they're preparing for overflow, right?
Yes, I did not attend the meeting, but they met last week, Thursday, I believe Thursday afternoon, with the police, fire, school department staff, Steve Fours, just to go over the logistics of the building, make sure they have enough handicap spots in the area of the entrance, overflow into the cafeteria, and just make sure that the fire department was okay with any occupancy or code issues, and as far as I know, everything is under control. I spoke to Kristen, she was there as well. She's brought in a couple of additional registrars to help with the signing in of people. They're trying to eliminate the number of people that are mingling outside the entrance there to the auditorium. So when you come in, you sign in, and you're gonna have to go right in and get your seat and go from there. But overall, they're planning for a big group.
Okay. Anything else about town meeting that anybody wants to talk about? We are posted for 6:30, but I think, do you guys have any action on the infrastructure meeting, or are you just told?
We may discuss asking FinCom to give a vote on 15 or 16, just so we have an idea.
Okay.
That was Mari was talking about Karen.
Okay.
The only other one, I think, from the select board was 39, which was the personnel bylaw changes.
Okay.
And on the copy that you have there, all the red is just my notes. Those are not part of the printed warrant, so.
Yeah. Okay. All right, anything else on town meeting? So 5 was a discussion on several select board policies, but I realized that we did not include these some of the policies in the meeting materials, and so I do not want to talk about the department communication policy because we did not distribute that, and I do not want to talk about the agenda and meeting policy because we did not distribute that either. But we did have the East Beach Storm interim policy. Actually, was that in here? Oh yeah, it was. It wasn't labeled 5. It just says East Beach Cobble policy for a suggestion. So I would like to talk about that if that's okay with Colbert. Okay, so so we're skipping over. We're going to talk at a different meeting about the communication policy and the agenda policy. So the East Beach Storm interim policy draft we got from Michael Burris. Where did this is got his, so, Jim, can you just talk about this? So the original one, who wrote the original
So
one?
I did the original, and Michael added.
So you did the original, and then the items, the part in purple was where he revised it, right?
Yep, I did accept those changes, but for some reason when it came up into this file, it came up with the edited versions.
No, it's okay.
It's the same thing.
East Beach Cobble policy Burris suggested.
Yeah.
All right, so just to kind of summarize the policy here that is proposed, there's a preamble, but when the storms cause overwash of beach sand and cobble onto East Beach Road, the highway department shall first secure the integrity of the road to prevent further erosion. Then the highway department shall relocate the remaining cobble deposited on the pavement to the southerly side of the right-of-way. It is understood that work during and after storms can be hazardous. Emergency operations take precedence, but it is the intent of the policy to remove material from the roadway, deposit the material on the south side of the roadway in the general area from where it came. Lot owners will be responsible for spreading the material once it has been pushed to the southerly side of the road. It is the lot owner's responsibility to ensure that spread material is compliant with applicable regulations, including but not limited from the Westport Conservation Commission and Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. The policy shall remain in effect until the Westport Select Board adopts a beach management plan for East Beach or otherwise repeals this interim policy. So I think the recommendation from the Climate Resilience Committee was to not create a permanent policy, but to wait for this overall beach management plan. So that is the proposed policy. Do we have any comments or discussion? Go ahead, Jim.
I just wanted to say it's a draft at this point. I just wanted to give it to the board so they could review it. I haven't discussed it with the East Beach group. I did send it to Chris and to Chris Gonzalez of the Highway Department in the planning office and did get comments back. But this is kind of the first shot.
Okay, so you're not asking for us to approve it. You're asking if we have any additional comments or questions or that kind of thing. Go ahead.
Okay, to Jim here, will KP Law be looking at this?
I can send it to them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably fairly cut and dried, but I don't know if there's some problem in there with some other statute or whatever that's out there.
Okay.
Any other comments? Anything for me? I know you just said you need to say it. If you're going to talk, though, you have to go to the mic. Sorry.
Came this far, may as well speak. My name is Kevin Kurt, the East Beach Improvement Association president, and I appreciate the efforts at trying to get something down on paper so we can work together to get to a point where we can, the word nourish comes up and armor comes up, but at the end of the day, we've got to try to make that area more resilient, because it's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when the next storm comes and how much damage is it going to do to the infrastructure. Right now, we do have quite a few vulnerable areas, which I feel as though, God forbid, this is the year we get the hurricane, you're going to lose a good chunk of that road. A lot of the cobble's been redistributed out of the area off of that south side of the beach. And it's made it difficult. People are able to use the lots. They're hoping to be able to replenish what they can. But I know a lot of them are very apprehensive. Some of them are constricted by cost. Some of them have the money but don't know what's going to happen on the next storm. I myself wouldn't want to spend $5,000 to bring in 5 truckloads of cobble or whatever to try and at least make my lot a little more resilient and protect the road at the same time, only to find out at the next storm I can't even get down there and it's being taken away rather than pushed back on the setback. I'd like to work with you to maybe get the input of those Southside lot owners who might say, I know Mr. Brewer said something about having KP Law take a look at it, and that's great. We don't want to do anything that's out of the ordinary or anything that's going to cause a problem. But at the end of the day, I don't think those people would mind if you pushed the stuff 10 or 20 feet back and it went over onto their property a little bit. Not that the machine would go on the property, but in any effort we could do together to make that beach a little more resilient and to try and save that road, because it's an asset to the entire community, the entire town. And again, the efforts are there. Let's see if we can continue to make it happen. The select board did vote to get a little bit of the material back, which was down by the town beach. Didn't amount to a whole lot. So we got to make some sort of effort together to be able to do that, so we don't lose that effort, that area completely. And then we'll all be saying, gee, what could we do next? But thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else on that? Okay. So Jim, you're gonna talk to KP Law on that and
Yep.
take your input. Okay. Town administrator report.
A few of these things we've already discussed. The Mass DEP water grant we've discussed earlier tonight. Hoping to get the completed contracts within the next couple of weeks from the state and the federal government so we can get that moving. Route 6 water and sewer. We have 2 members of the committee here, and I think we've kind of updated. They met with the finance committee last week, and the finance reducing the overall scope of the project to just the first contract, which is from Fall River to about in the area of Meatworks, just west of Route 88. We had some very competitive bids on the contract. We had 7 large companies bid on the overall project. We had 3 bids that were fairly close, two that were close to the lowest bidder. And they're attractive bids, so they came in probably about 20-25% under the original estimate. So it could be a good opportunity for the town, and they'll be voting on it tomorrow night at town meeting. The Drift Road Bridge.
Wait, before you go on, did you guys want to say anything about that?
So, how's Kleinfeld made out on looking at those bids?
Good. They evaluated the bids. I think there was one math error in one of them that was corrected, which happens. We go by the final number, but one of the units was off. Didn't make any difference. We met with the contractor today with Kleinfelder, Roger Fernandez, myself, just to make sure that they are interested in doing the work. We let them know that there's a meeting tomorrow night, town meeting, and if things go well, if things get approved at tomorrow night's meeting, there would be a possibility of another town election in July, the end of July, and they're aware of that, and they're still very much interested. So, yes.
Which contractor was that?
That was Forever. They were the low bidder on contract 1.
Yeah, but they went the low bidder on the overall project.
Right.
Okay, so the overall project, what was the amount that was estimated from Kleinfeld on the overall project?
So the overall, I think, was 32 million originally. They came in roughly about 22, but you have contingencies and construction administration, so I think you're probably 26, maybe somewhere in that range.
How does the PFAS grant money for the water main going down in contract 2 affect the bid on this?
It doesn't. If that, it's a good question, but in my own mind, it doesn't. So if we happen to go ahead with that project and do the whole 3 phases, we would just deduct that portion, or we would assign that PFAS grant to that portion, so it would reduce that contract, I don't know, maybe roughly $1 million or $1.5 million.
So how are we going to do that if we take the low bidder, that was the low bidder on contract 1, but not the low bidder on the overall job?
We're required to take the low cost bidder, aren't we?
Qualified.
Yeah.
So the way this was bid it was bid 3 separate ways. It was bid contract 1, which is the first section of Route 6 from Fall River to about Meatworks. Contract 2 was from Meatworks up to, say, Bread and Cheese Brook, and contract 3 was from Bread and Cheese Brook to Dartmouth. So the base bid is contract 1. So if we only do contract 1, then the low bidder for the base bid would get that. If the town tomorrow night votes for $35 million and you want to do the whole project, then it would go to the other contract because his overall bid for that portion was less.
So,
All right, anything else on that topic?
No, they did everything.
Okay.
And
Number
then,
3.
Drift Road Bridge, we're going to meet with Power Engineering, and Mr. Brewer, myself, 1 or 2 of the property owners, and Power Engineering will come in on May 10th to discuss concerns of the neighbors. And, they do have some reasonable concerns as far as the appearance and aesthetics of the bridge, and we will see what we can do to get some changes. And then the big one, we all talked about town meeting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the new school. And 2 other things that just came in. Ron Costa, who served on the Board of Citizens for Citizens, is, yes, he's not going to serve this year. Garth Patterson from Citizens for Citizens emailed today. They're looking for a nominee for that position. I think they usually meet anywhere from 9 to 12 times a year. He said it's not a lot of heavy lifting, but it's an important position, and we would need somebody from Westport to fill it. So if you know anybody that might be interested, let me know. We'll get it on the next agenda.
The chair, is that a volunteer position or a paid position?
I'm pretty sure it's volunteer, but I will check.
Yeah, that's the question I will get.
It would be volunteer.
You think it's volunteer?
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I would
not
think so,
sure.
yeah. And then the other one is, we're just working with the highway department. They're looking at some air quality issues, and it's been a wet season over there, so they have some mold, so they're evaluating that right now, and we may have to do some cleanup over there over the next month.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Next item we have is the minutes. I'm going to take them separately because Craig wasn't here for two of them, I wasn't here for one of them, so we're just going to do them one at a time. So how are we, March 25?
I was not here.
So you're moving approval of the minutes, just a second. So Craig is abstaining because he
Yep.
wasn't there. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 4 and 1 abstention. The minutes of April 8.
I'm abstaining.
Second.
So we have Craig is abstaining, Shauna is abstaining due to absence. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's 3 opposed, 3 in favor. And then April 22.
I move the minutes for April 22.
Second.
Madam Chair, I was not here.
Oh, sorry. You were not here on the 22nd, so you're abstaining for the 22nd.
And that's Craig's approving the
Craig's,
minutes,
yeah.
April
Yeah.
22nd.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've already approved them.
Oh,
I've
you're-
reviewed them and approved them.
Okay. Oh, right, because you're the clerk.
He's
now.
in the.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we don't- That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, you reviewed them and they're okay.
Yes.
All right. Good.
Thank you, Paula, for waking me up.
That's all right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's 4 in favor, 1 abstention. The report on the bill warrant.
Yes, so that's my,
We nominate you to
Bailiwick.
continue doing that.
yeah,
Thank
you know, I've got skill set there now. And good, everything was fine. It was fairly routine, nothing out of the ordinary. Everything was fine. Total of about $1.5 million, which was not very much relative to other bills. So it's all set.
All right, thank you. The next item is liaison committee reports and suggestions for future agenda discussion action. So we'll start with Manny.
I would just say that on this upcoming sewer and water project, that in light of the bids that went out and the monies that we now have available and are expected to have available coming in the next year. And also, I think we need to look very closely at how we award this contract. I know you're the procurement officer, Jim, so I just hope that you got a handle on that. And as we move forward after tomorrow's meeting and whatever happens, make sure we do the correct, what we should be doing.
Thank you.
That's good. We touched base on that, the IOC meeting. Serped was the usual. We touched base on some bike paths. Those, of course, Westport was mentioned. Lifeguards, Jim. We're getting close.
Yeah, I actually spoke to Mr. Leach from the beach committee today. He said they have a number of applications. I think they have 9 returnees, and they have, I think he said another 16 applications.
Wow.
Or 16 total. So right now they are in good shape as far as the number.
All right. And the other thing was cable advisory. Last time Irene Buck was here, she was talking about maybe switching it up and adding another citizen. Can we find out on that as we get closer to the July 1st appointments? Just so you know what's going on, please. I think that's it for now.
Okay. I didn't have any committee reports. So, Dick?
I just had 2 things. I'd been asking before to just remind everybody that we were going to have the chair of the school building committee come in. Of course, we have Craig and we have Manny here anyway, to talk about where that's going. It's been oft.
Are you talking about the school building committee or the long-term building committee?
The long-term building committee,
Okay.
yeah. So we should, this is not urgent, but we probably ought to do that one of these days. A lot of people are asking about that. That was an oft-asked question on the campaign trail. So I just thought that as a reminder. But
Okay, I just have a question on that. I mean, so we had that liaison that was looking into that. We're supposed to have another meeting. Is that coming up soon or anything, Jim?
I've reached out to the chair. I haven't heard back.
Is that a facilitator, was that?
Yes.
So the chair
we had one like extensive meeting, and then just after that meeting, I mean, I could have lost track with the emails I get, but.
is the chair Christopher Thrasher?
Yes.
Yes. So, okay. So yeah, you need to talk again. Okay.
The other thing I have, and Craig would be aware of this, a number of residents at the head of Westport are concerned about traffic. And they had authored a letter that they wrote to Jim, a copy to me as select board chair at the time, addressed to Christopher Dunn, police chief. And they're asking if what else can be done, which more than what has already been done. And the police have been involved in this. I don't think we have to take an action item as a select board, but if by consensus we could ask Jim just to follow up with the chief and also perhaps be in touch with their representative. And a gentleman by the name of Mark Fournier who lives there. He happens to be a lawyer, but he's one of the members, and he was asking for our help. Anything we can do. They know it's an uphill battle. The traffic is very heavy there, a lot of speeders. There's only so many things we can do. But they have gone on record, and I know that the chief is working with them, but if we could just follow through on that to show good faith.
I do recall, I mean, we did do a bunch in that area. So we narrowed the roadway through striping, and we put up the speed indicators.
Yeah.
And I know at one point we talked to, I think it was the DOT folks or traffic engineers that came in, and they were advising us against doing a speed study there because it would probably raise the speed limit, because the speed limit is 25 now, and at the time, I don't know if this is still true, but at the time, if they would have done a study, it likely would have raised the speed limit to 30. So yeah, I think it's probably worth seeing if there's anything else we could do,
That's
but I'm not
all.
all
Yeah.
that hopeful.
Yeah, just to show the effort, and
Yeah.
if there's nothing we can do, we understand. I think the residents there are realistic about this.
Yeah.
So
I know a lot of
Jim-
people ask for enforcement,
Jim's got plenty of time in the scenes. I thought maybe he'd work on
maybe
that.
after town.
I can tell you the chief is well aware of it. They had the board up there that tells you which your speed is, and they were having some trouble with the programming of it, but they got the software fixed up, so it's supposed to be going back up. But he
good.
is aware of it, and I think he's looking to meet with them in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because that came up at that meeting, and also his question is, where does the school zone start and end? And is there any flexibility in that?
So right now, it starts at the existing signs, which the school department is trying to replace and come up with new ones. They're pricing out, they've been working with the highway department, but that's where the existing school zone would start, right where the flashing sign is, and then at the other side. Whether or not that can be widened
Yeah.
is something we could look into.
Well, they're gonna lose interest in it, but it's on the weekends too. So people aren't gonna pay attention to it if they don't get it on the schedule.
They are looking to update them. I know the superintendent's been on that for a few months, and
Anything else, Dick?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Craig?
I am still, as of till tonight, I was only on one committee, but so.
Welcome back.
Yeah, Affordable Housing Trust. We hope to get the amount of money that we had requested through the Community Preservation Committee have that budget approved at the board meeting, which gets to one of the objectives that we have, which is to set aside money and then RFP send out a request for proposals for people to submit if they have parcels or they have control of parcels that might be useful for affordable housing. The most recent project we did was a partnership with Habitat for Humanity on Sodom Road. It put up two duplexes up. Ideally, we'd like to get something maybe not on a scale that we had a while back with Nokichoke Village, but something maybe on a smaller scale. But we need to do an inventory of sites. We need to know if people who have sites that might be suitable for affordable housing to have the opportunity to submit proposals to that. So that's sort of a medium-term priority. Short-term, representing the trust, I attended a regional seminar at the Whalen Museum a week ago for regional strategies. It had representatives from all of the surrounding communities, as well as the city of New Bedford attending. So some discussion about how to do this in a regional way as well.
So the next section is comments and statements from the public.
Have an issue chance.
Seeing none. Just a reminder that we have a number of vacancies on boards, committees, and commissions. Actually, there's not as many as we used to have, but also appointments are coming up again at the end of June. So, if you're interested in volunteering, if you're interested in serving on a committee, reach out. We might be able to find you the right kind of place. I don't have any topics unanticipated 48 hours in advance. Do you know of any, Jim?
I have none.
All right, so we don't have any topics. Our next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the new high school with the town meeting at 7 p.m. Our next regular meeting will be May 20th. We are going to go into executive session. We will only come into open session for the purposes of adjournment. No business after that. So, pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, the chair declares an open meeting will have a detrimental effect to A, to hear a complaint brought against a public official, B, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Westport Permanent Firefighters Association, Local 1802, C, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Highway Department, ASME Council 93, Local 1701, D, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Westport Police Association. E, approve minutes of March 25, 2024 and of April 22, 2024.
So mostly Willett.
Second, Richard Brewer.
And we'll roll call vote.
Manny Swords, aye?
I Steve Willett.
I, Shauna Schufel.
Hi, Richard Brewer.
Hi, Craig Dutra.
All right, so we are in executive session.